Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. La siyama al-Mustafa. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to another new edition of your program, Ask Huda. Our phone numbers beginning with area code 002-0238-555-248 or 249. The email address is ask@huda.tv. The Facebook address is msalahofficial. That is the Facebook address at Facebook, of course. Last time, which was last Thursday, last week I mean, Brother Ashfaq from the KSA asked a very interesting question, and the question was about the 7 people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shelter under the shade of His throne on the day of judgment, when there will not be any shade but His. When the sun will draw very near, like the distance of a mile or so, people will be melting, and the sweat will be drowning some people, and some people will have the sweat up to their nose, some people will be in the sweat. Sweat will be like an ocean of sweat. Every mankind, ever since Allah created humanity, till the last person, will be resurrected and gathered in one place which is known as Ardul Mahshar, the land of resurrection. Then everybody will be sweating, but subhanallah, according to the deeds of each person, the sweat will be in proportion with their good or bad deeds. So those who are full of bad deeds will drown in the sweat, and the sweat sometimes would reach the nose, sometimes would be up to the chest, the navel, and so on. And some people would not even experience any hardship on that day. The length of this day is 50,000 years of our time. كان مقداره 50,000 سنة فاصبر صبرا جميلا. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. Ameen. And have mercy upon us. Ameen. When one ponders on this reality and the day of judgment and what will happen and take place, if you have the least iman, you will be frightened, you will be afraid, because Allah's promise is the ultimate truth. So anyway, the Prophet ﷺ said, some people will be saved. May Allah make us amongst them. And some people will be sheltered under the shade of Allah or the shade of His throne, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He mentioned in this hadith, in this sound hadith, 7 categories. And Brother Ashfaq said, do you have to do the 7 things in order to be eligible to be sheltered in the shade? And I answered, no, you don't have to. It will be sufficient to take the advantage of being one of them, whichever one suits you most. Because the first one is Imamun Adil, a just ruler, because it's a package. The leadership comes with responsibilities as well as reward for those who will be just. Just ruler. It's not easy to be a just ruler. It's easy to be just, to be fair, to be adil between you and your family members, you and your employee. But if you are an imam, a ruler for the whole ummah, for a group of people, it's a big responsibility. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, when he once advised him and said, Ya Abu Dharr, I love you. إِنَّكَ امْرُؤٌ ضَعِيفٌ. You are a weak person when it comes to the leadership. لا تأمرن على اثنين. Don't you accept the imara, the leadership, even if you're only leading or ruling over 2 people. لا تأمرن على اثنين. Not because Abu Dharr was not qualified. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, the Prophet ﷺ admired him and praised him in some ahadith, but because maybe he was one of the very righteous people, but when it comes to the leadership, it requires certain kind of people. Abu Dharr who is not qualified to be a leader. So the person should not ask for it, should run away from it. Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him. And if we're talking about Umar ibn Khattab, right away we remember justice, adl. Umar ibn Khattab, radiyallahu anhu, used to go at night to patrol the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam like a regular guard or soldier, while he is Amirul Mu'mineen and the Khalifa, and his state or his ummah at that time was almost 2/3 of the whole world. Millions and millions of followers, they all are under the leadership of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. Yet one day he went out and he found a woman had put some utensil on the fire, and the kids were crying next to her. So he went to her and said, "Why are your kids crying? Have mercy on them, feed them." She says, if I was able to feed them, I would have fed them. Umar is responsible for that. She did not recognize him. She said, "It's Umar, it's all because of Umar. I'm a widow and these kids are orphans. I have nothing to feed them. So I pretend as if I'm cooking so that to calm down until I put them to sleep, and I keep doing this every night. We don't have any food." Allah is going to ask Umar, how could he become our Khalifa and Amir and we're starving and all my kids are crying and they go to sleep hungry? Umar ibn Khattab was frightened to death. Then right away he ran to Bayt al-Mal, the main storage for the sadaqat. And he picked up a huge sack of flour. And he asked his employee to load it on his back, over his back. He said, "I will carry it for you, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin." He said, "No, I am the one who should carry it." And he carried it and he went there and he baked the bread and he cooked the food and he fed the kids. Then he said to the woman, "Tomorrow, I would like for you to go to the house or the headquarters of Amir al-Mu'minin Umar." She said, "Do you know him?" He said, "Yes, I have some access to him." So the woman showed up on time. She saw the same man, who was Umar, but she did not recognize that he was Amir al-Mu'minin. He used to walk with 18 patches in his thawb, in his clothes. Imagine if I'm sitting in front of you right now with a patch or my clothes are torn, you say, "What kind of sheikh is this?" But Umar ibn Khattab, Amir al-Mu'minin, had 18 patches in his clothes. So she saw him, she recognized him, but she still doesn't know that he's Amir al-Mu'minin. He said, "Come close." Then Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, and these guys, these companions were there, and they addressed him as saying, "Ya Amir al-Mu'minin." The woman was shocked, and she recognized that she made a big mistake. She was accusing Umar of being unfair, unjust, and all of that, while he's the one who carried the flour and baked the bread and fed the kids. She said, "I'm sorry, I apologize, I don't mean it, I didn't recognize it." He said, "Don't worry about it. How much would it be sufficient for you to settle my case with you?" She said, "What case?" He said, "You complained to Allah that Umar was the Amir and he was not attentive to your need and poverty." She said, "But you did already enough." Number one, he made her a salary, a monthly salary from Bayt al-Mal. Number two, he insisted, "I have to pay you from my own money in order to settle this case." He had 500 dinar. So he handed over the money to her and said, "Are you happy? You're not going to complain to Allah about me anymore? You're not going to present your case before Allah on the Day of Judgment against me?" She said, "No." He said, "Well, we have to sign an agreement." And he ordered the Sahaba to write an agreement, and he had the woman stamp it, and to make sure that he would not have this case against him on the Day of Judgment. Then he said to Abu Ubaidah and to Ali, "Whenever I die, make sure this document, this contract, this settlement is wrapped in my coffin. So in case, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to ask me, what did you do with this woman, I would present, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best." But he's very keen to make sure that he will not be asked about any case. He's the one who used to cry saying, if a camel is toppled somewhere in Iraq, Allah will ask me, "Ya Umar, you were the leader of the believers. Why didn't you pave the road for the camel?" For the camel, hundreds of thousands of Muslims in Burma being burned to death. kicked out of their homes, deprived from the least rights. They're not even treated as animals. They're treated as, may Allah have mercy on us. And alhamdulillah, we're still eating and drinking and functioning, buying homes, and like nothing happens. And our rulers are buying sporting clubs here and involved here and there in drinking, in gambling, in wasting our money, the money of the Muslim Ummah. And the Burmese embassies in the Muslim countries are functioning properly and nothing has happened. As if these guys were cockroaches. As if they were not even human beings. أنصر أخاك ظالما أو مظلوما. So back to the subject of Imamun Adil. Not everybody can be an Imamun Adil, but there are 6 main other categories. We addressed them last time, and we said one thing that every person can do in order to be one of these 7 categories. To give in a charity in a secret way, to hide your charity, to conceal it, so that your left hand would not know how much your hand has given. I hope that many of you have done that since last time. There is another one thing that every person can do, which is رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ. When I say rajul, or when the Prophet ﷺ says rajul, it does not literally mean a man. It means a person. It could be a male or a female, old or young, as long as a believer. رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا. He remembered Allah in solitude, in private. So there is no traces of riyā or showing off. He's not doing this for any reason. Sometimes when the Imam has a beautiful recitation and the followers like that, so he pretends that he's crying and he recites melodiously, so the riyā ruins his prayer. But this is a person, he's praying in private or sitting in private. He remembered Allah, he remembers His magnificent power. He is afraid of His punishment on the Day of Judgment. He's hoping for His forgiveness. So فَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ, and his eyes overflow with tears. This person also will be saved on the Day of Judgment. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, عَيْنَانِ لَا تَمَسَّهُمَ النَّارِ. There are 2 eyes that the fire will never touch on the Day of Judgment. And when we say eyes, we mean the entire body, of course. It's not only the eyes that will be exempt from the punishment and the body will be in fire. No, the whole thing. Who are they? What are the 2 types of these eyes? عَيْنٌ بكت من خشية الله وعين باتت تحرس في سبيل الله. An eye which overflew with tears out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We spoke about it. And the second is a person who spend the night guarding and patrolling the Muslim borders for the sake of Allah. So those who are in the Muslim army should be proud of themselves, because if they're doing this for the sake of Allah, they will be rewarded. Policemen and women, likewise, if they were doing this from their house for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu Hurairah and others used to go out at night for nothing but to go on the borders of Al-Madinah. He's holding a broomstick. What are you doing? I'm patrolling the city. You are patrolling the city and protecting the borders? Why? Hoping to be one of those people, one of those guys. وَعَيْنٌ بَاتَتْ تَحْرُسُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Muhammad from the KSA.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. رمضان كريم شيخ, how are you?
Barakallah fik ya Muhammad. How old are you?
11.
Ya Muhammad, can we say Ramadan Mubarak instead of Kareem, please? I'm going to begin, and I say Ramadan Mubarak to you, Muhammad, and to your family. Do you have a question?
I have 3 questions.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
My first question is, what's the difference between Arafat and Laylatul Qadr?
The difference between Laylatul Qadr and what?
Arafat.
Arafat and Laylatul Qadr. Wonderful. Okay. Second question, please, Muhammad.
What are the signs? My second question is, what are the signs that show that your repentance is forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Okay.
And my third question is that my Qari, teaching the Quran in Hifz al-Quran, he says to me, when you read Surah Al-Kahf in Friday, the 2 Fridays that you read Surah Al-Kahf, the 2 Fridays, every time you read Surah Al-Kahf, your sins between the 2 Fridays will be forgiven. Can you please clarify it?
Okay.
Okay, so
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brother Arshad from Qatar, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Ask Huda.
Wa alaikum assalam. Sheikh, Ramadan Mubarak to you.
Barakallahu feek. Thank you so much to you and to your family too, Brother Arshad.
Yes. I have 4 questions.
Now,
Question number 1. If I want to do itikaf with my father for 1 day, when should I enter the mosque and when should I leave the mosque?
okay.
Then question number 2. Can my father become mahram for my mother's sister? If not, can I become a mahram for her given I will be 15 in October?
Okay. Your father is not a mahram for his sister-in-law, who's your aunt, your maternal aunt.
Yes. Yes.
While you are. So you are a mahram for your aunt, whether maternal or paternal. But your father is not a mahram for your maternal aunt. He's a mahram of your paternal aunt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then question number 3. There's a hadith that if we precede the imam in any action, our head will be made into a donkey's head. Therefore, can we recite the Surah Al-Fatiha together with the imam, since it's hard to do so once he finishes Surah Al-Fatiha?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that question.
It's like, can we, since we cannot do anything before the imam, we can't precede the imam in any action.
Correct.
Can we recite Surah Al-Fatiha with him? As he says Alhamdulillah, we also say Alhamdulillah.
Why would you do that?
Because once he finishes Surah Al-Fatiha, it's hard
He doesn't
to...
give you time to recite it.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you can. If the local imam is known that he does not spare some time for you to recite it, some of the scholars, relying on the hadith that if you don't recite Surah Al-Fatiha, your prayer is insufficient and deficient or incomplete, they require you to recite it even between the ayat as he takes a break between the ayat. Okay? Barakallah feek. So remains one question for you, which is when to enter the mu'takaf. If you like to enter the i'tikaf, you should enter before sunset, because the night begins at sunset or at the ghurub. And if it is only one night, as you said, then you can leave after Fajr if you're going to work. And i'tikaf does not have a minimum time. If you enter for a few minutes with the intention of i'tikaf, that is i'tikaf. For those who don't have access to perform i'tikaf in the last 10 days and nights entirely, as the Prophet ﷺ used to do, then at least whenever you enter for the Maghrib and Taraweeh and until the morning, do i'tikaf in an attempt to witness Laylatul Qadr while you are in a state of i'tikaf. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Shabir from Oman.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ramadan Mubarak, sir.
Barakallahu feek, Shabir. Go ahead, please.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah.
It was
Thank you
nice
for asking.
talking to you. And long time I was trying to call you but could not get the line.
I'm sorry for
I
that.
have 2 questions, sir.
Now,
I have 2 questions. One question is, I asked already from one sheikh on Huda TV that I am in property business. So suppose I have a property.
now,
And how to calculate my zakat? I asked this question. How to calculate my zakat? According to the value of the property, today's market, or according to the investment? So I got the answer according to the today's market value of the
No.
property.
So
then I
basically,
asked
you buy
them,
property for sale. You buy property to sell them to generate a profit or revenue.
We are making the building and selling. Buying the land and making building and then selling.
Now,
So I asked, it is on the investment, the amount which we invested on that or the property's value, because the building is giving rent also. We
now,
are getting the rent also. It is a multi-story building.
no,
So
you
the
need to
question-
explain to me. You said you're not selling the property, you're renting them. Because it makes a difference.
Rented also, but it is for the sale purpose.
I will explain to you, inshallah, both cases, if it is for sale or if it is for rent, and how to calculate the zakah, inshallah.
Yes.
Second question? Now,
There is one second question. I was sitting with the TV on 2-3 days back, and it is from the Pakistan. 2 sheikhs were sitting, and people are asking many questions to them. One lady asked a question, I have so-and-so gold. So should I pay the zakat for the gold? One sheikh is answering, if it is an ornament, then you should not pay the zakat. This sheikh is calling himself, this is Firqa Jafariya. Firqa Jafariya. Another sheikh is telling, giving example of hadith, and he's telling, even it is like ornament or it is in a biscuit or whatever, you have to pay zakat.
Now,
So my question, these people, why they are confusing the Muslims?
okay.
And how to take the answer? The person who is asking the question, which answer he is going to take? And it is misguiding.
نعم. طيب. بارك الله فيك.
Thing in Islam, like Firqa Jafariya or Firqa anything. Islam is Islam also.
Okay. بارك الله فيك. Shabir from Oman. Brother Abdul Rahman from Egypt.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi Sheikh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته عبد الرحمن.
Ramadan Mubarak.
بارك الله فيك.
May Allah accept our good deeds.
آمين.
Sheikh.
آمين.
Sheikh, I'm really worried about the fact that I went for Umrah and when I came back, I was waiting to pick my luggages. I took all of them except my container of Zamzam, for which I waited till the end. I couldn't find my bottle. So when I complained to the attendants,
They told you just pick up anyone.
yes, they said I should pick anyone.
No.
So they gave me one. I came back home. This is like 5 days now. I'm still disturbed. I don't know how to use it. And I can't take it back. So I want to know what to do about this.
No.
Then, secondly, Sheikh, there's this hadith of Ummina Aisha that the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, always in his night prayers, either in Ramadan or outside Ramadan, always never exceeds 11 rak'ah. So I want to know what is happening. What is the situation for having so many rak'ahs that what we used to experience in the haram?
طيب. Got it. Thank you, Abdul Rahman from Egypt. Next, please. Brother Muhammad from the KSA.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. First of all, congratulations for this wonderful and enlightening program.
Barakallahu feek. Thank you so much.
My first question is, I want to know whether I can, my zakat, I can put in the investment. Actually, I am constructing a hospital for my mother's name, who's no. Put my zakat money in that. This is for the poor people and for the mentally retarded. My mother had a mental sickness. So this is what I am constructing. I have saved some money. So can I put my zakat money in that? Second question is, I am traveling to India. The Eid is one day after over here. So I'll be traveling the day. If I go to India and celebrate over Eid over there, it will be 31 days. So I will be for 31 days. So while traveling, if I miss one day, do I have to do it after Eid? And the last and final question is, I want to know how this evolution start, where when we say kill the animal as per Sunnah. How was the methodology to do it? Whether the way do it is halal or haram? How did it originate?
The evolution of what?
Evolution, basically, as per Sunnah, if we want to kill some animal to have it for our eating, there is a proper way to do it. What is the proper way and how did it evolve? Like, how did it, what is the origin behind it?
So basically you're asking about the proper way of slaughtering the animals in Islam.
Yes, Jazakallah khair.
Okay, wa jazakum. Brother Abu Asir from the USA.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, Ramadan Mubarak.
Barakallahu feek, Abu Asir. Naam.
I have 3 questions. The first one is it permissible to receive tax break on your zakat?
The voice is faded. I can't hear you, Abu Asir. Would you please raise your volume a little bit?
Sure. I said, is it permissible to receive tax break on your zakat? You find that a lot of charity organizations that they have tax, they have tax deductible accounts.
As a matter of fact, Abu Asir, as a matter of fact, you should do so. You should get a tax break on your zakah. For every check you pay towards your zakah or a charity, do get a tax break on it. You know, the zakah or any charity is tax deductible. So yes, it's highly recommended. If you're asking from a Sharia point of view, there's no problem whatsoever. Your zakah was paid with a sincere intention in order to fulfill the duty of giving alms. The voluntary charity as well. It depends, your intention. You're giving this for the sake of Allah, not to avoid the taxes. You will be rewarded for it. Meanwhile, can I get a tax break on that? Yes, absolutely you can. And I advise every Muslim who's living in the US, upon paying your zakah, whether to ISNA, ICNA, or any organization which collect the zakawat, Islamic relief, or whatever, get a receipt, submit it to your accountant, and get a tax break on it. Any other questions, Abu Asir?
Yes. I have two more questions, and the other one is pertaining to zakat again. When it's very hard to keep track of, whatever, money you have, is it permissible just to, just take out 2.5% every year? Let's say, for example, every Ramadan, you just count how much money you have and just take 2.5% just to avoid falling
This is how we do it, Abu Asir. This is how we do it. I don't really care how much you spend, how much is left, how much throughout the year. By the end, from the day that you possess the nisab, and after 1 year round, whether it is the beginning of Ramadan or before or after, whenever it is due to pay the zakah, you estimate how much you already possess in saving, in investment, in stocks, in trade, and you pay zakah on your entire position. Okay? 2.5%, of course. Barakallah feek. Any other questions? Okay.
Yes, there is one more question, but just for clarification for this.
The brothers are being very generous too, because you're calling from the States. You see, you're getting a privilege.
Jazakallah khair.
Third question, please.
Okay, yes, this question is related to prayers in trouble, and I've been, I've been getting different opinions, and I've been doing different things throughout the years now, but I just want to get a clarification of this. When you're troubling, how to shorten or when to shorten your prayers and for how long?
Okay, got it. Thank you, Abu Asir. Got your question. I got your question. Shortening the prayer, the distance, and the period. For how long? Barakallah fiqh. Next. Sister Beth from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking. How is Ramadan with you?
I'm fine, Sheikh. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Sheikh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is female circumcision allowed in Islam?
Okay.
And, if I fast the 6th month of Shawwal, and women always make up those some days that they miss during Ramadan. If she fasts the 6 days of Shawwal, is it can it be a two intentions that she's making up while she's fasting the 6 days of Shawwal?
Okay. As far as your first question, it is permissible whenever it's necessary, but it is not mandatory. Second, with regards to fasting after Ramadan, the 6 white days, of course, we'll talk about that in details afterward, but you should begin by making up the missed days first. Unless if you think that you will not be able to make it, if it is too much, like some people have the missed days, 15 days or more. So you can begin by fasting the 6 days of the month of Shawwal and make up the missed days, inshaAllah, any other time as long as it is before the next Ramadan. Barakallah feekum, brothers and sisters. Let's take a short break. And inshallah, in a few minutes, we'll come back to you in order to answer your valuable questions and take some more. Stay tuned.
Can't do that because you do not know what to say to them sometimes. At least you raise up your hand and ask Allah, oh Allah, please give guidance to this brother of mine. The importance of following Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To follow our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam means you must understand his sunnah. Adinu Yusrum, Islam is a very easy religion, simple religion. So don't make religion difficult to yourself. I believe this hadith is very common to all of us. But the beauty part of this hadith, number one, it started by Umar al-Khattab saying, Sami'tu. Now again, I'd like to share with the brother and sister to understand the beauty of this saying of the companion.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome, dear viewers from around the world, to our exciting program titled Good Answer. I'm your host Malik, and I'm joined by the Imam of America, the founder of Guide Us TV. He needs no further introduction. I think you know who I'm talking about, Sheikh Yusuf Estes. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum, Malik. My name is Ayman, and I think a lot of people would like to know, a lot of non-Muslims would like to know who Prophet Muhammad was.
We worship the God that he worshipped. And we worship that God the way he worshipped. So we consider Islam to be a way or a deen.
Right.
Anywhere. But that had never been before. He said this is a gift, never came before, that me and my followers, we can make our salah, our connection, anywhere.
Hey, Sheikh, you're on the hot seat. I like my seat over here. I'm feeling comfortable. Because he asked you a tough question. He asked you a good question. Can you give him a good answer?
Islam my deen, Allah my Lord, His word Quran.
Whatever you do, whatever you got, it's a gift from Allah. Thank Him and always say Alhamdulillah all the way. Alhamdulillah, I always say, every time and every day. Alhamdulillah is a lovely word, it keeps me safe and on my way. Whatever you do, whatever you got, it's a gift from Allah. Thank Him and always say Alhamdulillah all the way.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Before I will be able to take more phone calls, I would like to tackle these questions. Muhammad from the KSA has 3 questions. The difference between Arafat and Laylat al-Qadr. The day of Arafah is the best day of the entire year. And the night of Laylat al-Qadr is the best night of the entire year. So, the superiority is for the day which is from dawn till sunset on Arafah. Then the superiority for all the nights, the most superior night is the night of the decree, which is one of the last 10 nights or odd nights of the month of Ramadan. While Arafah, the day of Arafah is the 9th day of the month of Dhul Hijjah. The dua on the day of Arafah is to be accepted. Fasting for those who are not performing Hajj on the day of Arafah expiates the sins of 2 years, the past year and 1 year to come. Laylatul Qadr, in brief, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and we're approaching Laylatul Qadr, mashaAllah. This night has a surah that is stated in the Quran after its name, Surah Al-Qadr, the great position, وَالْمَنْزِلَةُ الْعَظِيمَةُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the surah, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. The worship that a believer will offer on that night is superior to the worship that is offered in 1,000 months continuously, that is more than 83 years. If a Muslim happened to pray the fard, then the nafl, taraweeh and tahajjud and make dua and istighfar between sunset and Fajr, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Salamun hiya hatta matla' al-Fajr. It's a peaceful night, the most peaceful night. All the way until dawn, then this is it. That is the night of Al-Qadr. So I adjure and I urge every Muslim to be very keen to witness Laylat al-Qadr. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to enter his mu'takaf on the 19th day, which will be the night that precedes the 21st day. Or basically on the 20th day and the night that precedes the 21st day. So that you will pray the tahajjud on the night before the 21st, Taraweeh and tahajjud. It may be Laylatul Qadr because, as the Prophet ﷺ said, it is one of al-layali al-fardiyah, the 21st, 23rd, 25th, 27th, or the 29th. And your best bet is to take the last 10 days and nights in worship as the Prophet ﷺ used to do, and not to waste a minute out of that. With regards to the virtues of reciting Surah Al-Kahf on of course we can drink now, and the director is joking with me and say, would you like some water? Excuse me. Reciting Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, and that begins on the night before, يعني Thursday evening at sunset. You can start reciting Surah Al-Kahf all the way until sunset of Friday. Is highly recommended. There are a few ahadith, many of them are weak, not sound, such as the hadith of which is collected by Imam Ahmad, in which it says that the Prophet ﷺ said, this is a quotation, whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, it will shed light for him from between the earth and the heaven. He would have light lit for him from the earth to heaven. But the other narration, which is collected by Al-Hakim in his Mustadrak, in this narration the Prophet ﷺ says, and this hadith is judged as Hasan by Imam Al-Albani, may Allah have mercy on him, and it is narrated by the great companion Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him. He says, whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf, it would light for him from between the 2 Fridays. Yani you recite it on this Friday. If you recited it yesterday or the day before yesterday, you will have nur for you until next Friday. If you recite it next Friday, you will have nur until the next one, and so on. So basically, there are great virtues in reciting Surah Al-Kahf on Friday. The signs of accepting your tawbah is excuse me, when you fulfill the conditions of tawbah, which we addressed many times, and when you notice a change that took place in your life, but when you say, oh Allah forgive me, and at the same time you're lighting a cigarette again, oh Allah forgive me for smoking, and once again you light cigarette, at the same time then you were joking. But if the sin was done afterward and the person slipped into the sin again, but he was sincere at the time of the repentance was accepted at this time. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Hajj al-Mabrur laysa lahu jaza'un illa al-Jannah. Which says, Al-Hajj, which is described as Mabrur, its reward is not lesser than paradise. How do we know that it is Mabrur? When Hajj becomes a changing point and a turning point in your life. So before Hajj, perhaps you were involved in some sins, major or whatever. And after Hajj, you repented and you straightened up. You became a better person. That's a sign that your Hajj has been accepted. And of course, you've done Hajj from a lawful earning. So again, a sign. Somebody has performed Hajj from unlawful earning. I can tell him whether the Hajj is valid or not, but acceptance, I have nothing to do with it. That is in Allah's hand. Shabir from Oman, excuse me, he's in the property business, and his question is actually consists of multiple questions, because properties which are bought to be sold are different than properties which are bought to be developed, where you buy complexes or compounds, apartment complex, then you rent them. So if the property that you bought is intended to develop it, build some apartment complex on it or buildings and rent them, then there is no zakah on the property itself, nor on the buildings. Once you start generating revenue from charging the rent, there is zakah on this rent after the expenses and covering the utilities and so on, and the maintenance. But the properties, you bought a property today because the price is wonderful, and right away you put it on the market because you are in the property business. You pay zakah on this property according to the retail sale value on the day of paying the zakah. I'm paying the zakah today, check out the market. Or how much I put it in the market? 300 grams? Okay, so I pay the zakah on 300 grams, more or less. Zakah on gold. And we're talking about which gold? Gold which is used as an ornament or jewelry, zina for women, which is known in Arabic as al-hulay. Al-zakah ala al-hulay have actually 3 schools, but 2 are very prominent and very famous. Al-Jumhur, Al-Shafi'i, Malik, Ahmad, they say, and many of the Sahaba and so on, they say if the woman wears the gold and this is her ornaments, there is no zakah on it. It's like her clothes. It's not that she bought the gold in order to save it for one day, to sell it, to make money out of it. No. Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on him, and before I say his opinion, I say I'm into this opinion full-heartedly. Why? Because he relies on a hadith. The hadith is narrated by Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him. He says, a woman had visited the Prophet ﷺ, and she had 2 young girls wearing 2 bracelets of gold. Muskatani min dhahab. The Prophet ﷺ said, أتؤدي زكاة هذا أو أتؤدين زكاة هذا? Do you pay zakah on that much gold? She said no. He said that will be an equivalent punishment in the fire of hell. حسبك من النار, if you don't pay zakah on it. So he concluded from that the girls were wearing the gold. So basically it's an ornament and is used as ornament. So he said you still have to pay zakah on that. There is a third school which explains the difference. If she wears them throughout the entire year as an ornament, there is no zakah. But if she is saving them and occasionally she uses them, then there is zakah on it. I personally feel very comfortable following the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, and I keep saying this. But if somebody followed the opinion of Al-Jumhur due to other hadith, he is not blameworthy. What about Abdurrahman? I would like to take one more minute. They've been telling me that we're over time, but I would like to answer Abdurrahman first. As he returned from the Umrah, his Zamzam container was lost or mixed up with other containers, and the guys told him at the airport, the authorities told him you can just pick up any container. I wouldn't do that. Before I board the plane, I wrap my Zamzam container. Now by law you have to wrap it with a plastic wrap and so on. And with a marker, write down your name clearly on it, because that happens all the time. Some people belittle just taking the property of somebody else. What if you take a container that belongs to somebody else and he spends time, wasting time looking for his, simply because you lost yours and you picked up somebody else. The hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha that the Prophet ﷺ did not exceed 11 rak'ahs in Ramadan other than Ramadan, it does not limit the night prayer to 11 rak'ahs. It says this is what the Prophet ﷺ offered, but the Sahaba have prayed more than that and beyond than that, and the Prophet ﷺ did not object. And furthermore, at the time of Umar ibn Khattab, when he gathered the Muslims behind Ka'b to lead them in the Taraweeh prayer, they prayed 21 rak'ahs and they prayed 36 and 40 plus. It's nafilah, so if you want to pray extra, fine. But you should not decrease excuse me, the night prayer of the Taraweeh from the number that the Prophet ﷺ have offered. And if you do, it is valid still, as long as you end up the night prayer with the witr. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. And until tomorrow, brothers and sisters, I leave you in the care of Allah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance and in your deeds.